chapter 11. And there shall come forth a shoot out of the stock of Jesse, a twig shall grow forth out of his roots, and the Spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom, understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge, and of the fear of the Lord. And his delight shall be in the fear of the Lord, and he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither decide after the hearing of his ears. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and decide with equity for the meek and of the land. And he shall smite the land with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked, and the righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins. And the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. And the cow and the bear shall feed, the young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like an ox. And the suckling child shall play on the hole of an asp, and the weaned child shall put his hand into the baselic's den. They shall not hurt nor destroy in my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. And it shall come to pass in that day that the root of Jesse, that stands for an ensign of the peoples, unto him shall the nations seek, and his resting place shall be glorious. And it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord will set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, that shall remain from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. And he will set up an ensign for the nations, and will assemble the dispersed of Israel, and gather together the scattered of Judah from the four corners of the earth. The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and they that harass Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim. And they shall fly down upon the shoulder of the Philistines. On the west together shall they spoil the children of the east. They shall put forth their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. And the Lord will utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea, and with the scorching wind, and will he shake his hand over the river, and will smite it into 7 streams, and cause men to march over dry shod. And there shall be a highway for the remnant of his people, that shall remain from Assyria, like as there was for Israel in the day that he came forth out of the land of Egypt. Okay, let's go back up to verse 1. We remember yesterday's chapter. God was punishing now the children of Israel because they had went astray from God, and he was punishing them now with Asher. Even Asher is this step up, step forward in progress, or this alternative altar they've made there, even is what it represents, this little step. And God was using this to come against them, and it's a punishment now, but we're going to find that in the end, God's going to turn and punish even this altar that he used to punish with. And we're going to find out that but when this is all over, when God's done punishing Israel, and he will set his hand to punish then the king of Assyria, we will see there will be a deliverance even, and this we're going to find more about this deliverance of the end time, and we're going to find out that the Lord is bringing it up to the precipice. He's bringing it up to the height thereof, so he can cast it down, because he wants all the world to see. He's going to make a great example even of the end time, and that's what we're going to see. God's even telling the prophets at this time. And this would be many, 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 many years before this example would be made. God is going to even tell the prophets then, through the prophets does he speak to Israel, all the nations of Israel that have been scattered in all the world. God does speak through the prophets in telling you his plan before he ever did it. Because in the end time, he's going to call it to your remembrance. He says, now, I told you this before I did it. That way you couldn't say, your idol's done it. Verse 1, we're going to pick it up. How he's going to make his great example. And there shall come forth a shoot out of the stock of Jesse, and a twig shall grow forth out of his roots. And Jesse is that stands out. We'll remember Jesse. He was David's father. He was the son of Boaz, and David would become the second king of Israel. And God would use David now to show signs and wonders in the world, and we're going to see even in the end time, God will use his house again. And that's what we're talking about, this shoot or this branch or this little twig that comes forth out of the roots of this, even the king's house. And the Spirit of the Lord, too, shall rest upon him, the Spirit of wisdom and understanding, the Spirit of counsel and might, the Spirit of knowledge and of fear of the Lord. And this Spirit is the breath or the understanding of it. So God is going to increase now this one who he's going to bring forth in the end time. We're going to find more about this as we go. Even this one God's going to use as example. See, God's going to rest upon him in understanding. God's going to rest upon him in counsel and knowledge and in the fear of the Lord. So it's the Spirit of God. We know from an earlier chapter, God said it's the zeal of God that's going to bring this around. And that word zeal would have been better translated to jealousy. See, it's the jealousy of God that's going to bring this around, because they have gone into error. 3, and his delight shall be in the fear of the Lord, and he shall not judge after the sight of his eyes, neither decide after the hearing of his ears. So his delight, this one will have great delight in God, and he will fear God, and he will not judge after the sight of his eyes. So what he sees and the way he sees things in this world will not be the way he judges, or by what he hears. What's being said, these understandings even. Because there's a higher understanding, and actually the higher understanding is the law, knowing the law is just and right. But with righteousness shall he judge the poor, and decide with equity for the meek of the land. And he shall smite the land with the rod of his mouth, and with the breath of his lips shall he slay the wicked. And we're going to find out this is the plan of God from the beginning, because God is sending one who has for a sign, and we're going to find out now, though, that it's for judgment. It's to set judgment into the earth. It's to set judgment into the earth for righteousness' sake. He's going to use, once again, he's using the house of David as this example, and to judge the poor and decide with equity for the meek of the land. And what this is, to make a flat spot, a level place now to stand, and this is to make plain a platform even to stand on. And the rod of his mouth would be the tongue which he would speak the word of God. 5, and righteousness shall be the girdle of his loins, and faithfulness the girdle of his reins. And this girdle is basically like a belt that wraps, that secures. And righteousness, justice would be a better translation for this. Justice would be, because there is justice now, and we're going to find out that it's for this purpose that this is done. And this faithfulness, the girdle of his reins, this faithfulness is steadfast, the solid firmness even. It shall be the girdle being the same as the belt, that which secures up, or the security of his reins. And these reins here would be better translated as but his seat, even in representation to this seat of strength. 6, and the wolf shall dwell with the lamb, and the leopard shall lie down with the kid, and the calf and the young lion, the fatling together, and the little child shall lead them. And this wolf shall dwell with the lamb. And this would not be a natural thing to happen, so we know it's being used in a similitude. And this lamb is always this lesser herd, and this wolf shall lie down with them. In other words, there's this form of peace in the land that's not actually natural. That's not the way it really should be. And this leopard shall lie down with the kid. This leopard is always, and generally means, in a sneaky way of the cat, shall stretch himself out there now with the kid, and this baby goat, this is a baby goat or a baby ram even, and the calf and the young lion and the fatling together, and a little child shall lead them. And this would be basically the prey lying down with the predator, the calf and the young lion. And this would not be a natural act. These things are distorted. These things are not correct. 7, and the cow and the bear shall feed, the young ones shall lie down together, and the lion shall eat straw like an ox. And this cow and the bear feeding together, once again, the bear is this understanding of something that moves softly now with great strength, and this cow, that which is of the greater herd, even the larger cattle, shall feed, and their young ones lie together. Well, these things just ain't a normal thing you would see, and that's basically what it is God has brought a peace into the earth, see, that's not natural, that's not correct, and we're going to find out he's using this, though. And this lion shall eat straw together. This lion, the word is not even actually a lion. It would be these images of a lion, these things of a lion we would think in our mind even, and it's actually violence. This is what we see a lion do. Anytime we think of lion, we think of these images of violence. And this straw is really building materials. This is the straw that's used for building materials. It's not the wheat, but the straw. And this ox should be more like a herd. He devours it like a herd. 8, and the suckling child shall play with the hole of an asp, and the weaned child shall put forth his hand into the basil's den. So here we have the suckling child of this infant, even, and he's playing on the hull of an asp. So there's safety, great safety in the land. And a weaned child shall put his hand on the basil's den. And the difference between this, asp is a snake that's not poisonous, and the basil's den is a viper, a snake that is poisonous. So once the child's weaned, he can put his hand into the viper's den even, and take up the viper supposedly. But now we're not talking about real snakes here. See, where this is in a figurative sense, because it's not natural for a child to play with viperous snakes. 9, they shall not hurt nor destroy in all my holy mountain, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. So God's using this now to stop the destruction in the mountain of God, in this the high place of God, for the earth shall be full of the knowledge of God, the Lord, as the waters cover the sea. So God is going to use this now to spread the knowledge of Him, and we're going to find out that's what it was used for, all through the world. 10, and it shall come to pass in that day that the root of Jesse, that stands for an ensign of the peoples, unto him shall the nations seek, and the resting place shall be glorious. And abundant would be a better name for that. Glorious. Glorious gives you a kind of a misleading understanding. It's that his resting place shall be abundant. It shall be abundance there. And it shall come to pass in that day that the root of Jesse, this one that stands for an ensign of the peoples, this one who stands for this sign even, the nations shall seek. And this, we're going to find out, is what God done in the end. The nations, He give them this to all the earth as a sign now. And to the nations, these Gentiles, that's what these nations are here, these Gentiles. And what these Gentiles represent are the nations even that was there, that were in the land when the children of Israel came in to occupy the land in the beginning. And there's another thing that they're called is the heathen nations, these nations that don't understand God. So God's gave a sign now, and He's going to draw all the nations, all these other nations besides Israel, unto this, 11, and it shall come to pass in that day that the Lord will set his hand again the second time to recover the remnant of his people, that shall remain from Assyria, and from Egypt, and from Pathros, and from Cush, and from Elam, and from Shinar, and from Hamath, and from the islands of the sea. And we're going to find out that was the purpose in the beginning. God says, look, I'm going to do a marvelous work. I'm going to do a great work. This is going to be the sign of it. I'm going to use the house of Jesse. I'm going to set up a sign over all the earth. I'm going to draw all the nations to it. Great peace will be in the land. Even things that don't seem natural will be peaceful. And in that day shall the Lord set his hand once again to recover the remnant the second time. We've been talking about this second time. Many times have we mentioned this second time. God's going to make a great example in the end time. The prophets have told us this through a marvelous work. But we're going to find out. See, God's making a place of stumbling as well. This period of the day, in this day, is a cycle. A day is not just a period of light. No, a day is a cycle of darkness and light. And the day always begins in darkness. Then does the light come. And God's going to try to recover once again his people that remain in Assyria. Assyria is that place of the Asher, that little altar. And from Egypt, this land of enclosures. And from Pathros, the region of the south, this region that is dry and arid. And from Cush, the land of the darkness. And from Elam. Elam is a word that's like eternity. It's like forever. And from Shinar, this country of the two rivers where the waters were divided. And from Hamath, well, you remember Hamath. Hamath is those walls. Hamath is the walls, stacked up rocks to make walls, even enclose. And from the islands of the sea, these isolated places, even, 12. And he will set up an ensign for the nations, and will assemble the dispersed of Israel, and gather together the scattered of Judah from the four corners of the earth. 12, understanding now. And he will set up an ensign. He will set up a sign, even, a signal, as he said. He says, I'm going to use the house of David to do this. Set up this sign, and I will assemble the dispersed of Israel, and gather together the scattered of Judah. So, and this is the sign God's using now. He's saying, look, I've done this great work. I've done this marvelous work. I'm God, see, and I told you I was going to do it before I ever did it. And now I've done it. Now I'm going to pour out the understanding that I am God, and I do these things. These things ain't done by men. What is the work? It's not what the king did. God established the king. See, the authority of the king can't be higher than God. God established it. See? So, and we're going to find out the whole point in the end time is to understand there's a God. And God done these things. God done these things across the millenniums of time now. Across the thousands of years. So that you would be caused to forget and understand God does these things, not men. God set up the sign, and God's going to blow the trumpet, and God's going to sound the horn. 13. The envy also of Ephraim shall depart, and they that harass Judah shall be cut off. Ephraim shall not envy Judah, and Judah shall not vex Ephraim. And through this sign of the end time, when God shows himself marvelous, he says, look, I've done this work. This is me. I've done this. See, he was building something. He's had him working all the time. God had him working all the time. There's going to be understanding. And Ephraim, that double-fruited, they ain't going to fight with Judah no more. See, because God has shown himself once again through this great work. And Ephraim shall not envy Judah. And Judah shall not vex Ephraim. These two are going to quit fighting in the end time. Well, because God's done showed them both. You ain't nothing. These images, these gods you've raised up ain't nothing. I've done all this. God has done all this. Not you or your idols that I have caused you to fall down and worship. 14, and they shall fly down upon the shoulder of the Philistines on the west together. Shall they spoil the children of the east? They shall put forth their hand upon Edom and Moab, and the children of Ammon shall obey them. And these Philistines are the drifters. They'll fly down upon the shoulder of the drifters on the west. And these are the ones that have drifted away from the law of God. Together shall they spoil the children of the east. Who? Judah and Ephraim. Israel. Ephraim represents the whole house of Israel. These double-fruited that have gone off and went astray from God. We'll find out what they did was they took a sacrifice and they set it up and started to worship it. It was a calf, that which God gave in the first place for the atonement of your sins. And they started to worship it, and this was the great sins. God's going to repeat this in the end time. He's done said he was going to. Edom, those that show the blood in the flesh, are these that represents those that are just fleshful and have no understanding. They show the blood now because they have made a covenant. And Moab, just like their father. These are those that are like their father. And the children of Ammon, the nations, shall obey them. Who obey? The children of Israel, these ones who have been given this knowledge, these ones who have been given the sign in the end time. See, that there's a God. They're the ones who've been redeemed. They're the ones who've been delivered. Through the understanding of this, are the nations going to understand this? No, they are off seeking after another. This is the great understanding of the end. See, God has made you a witness. You've raised up, and you've erred. It's in the earth. You can't hide it. 15, and the Lord will utterly destroy the tongue of the Egyptian sea, and with his scorching wind he will shake his hand over the river, and will smite it into 7 streams, and cause men to march over dry shod. And that's what's happening. God is actually going to destroy this Egyptian sea, and we find these Egyptians are these ones that come out of the land of enclosures. These are then this tongue, or this words of they speak. This is what we're talking about. Are we actually talking about the country of Egypt? No. We're talking about that land of enclosures that Egypt's been used in symbolism of since the beginning. See, that's what we're talking about. And he will shake over the river, this river of Egypt, this river that comes down out of this land of enclosures, and will smite it into 7 streams. And 7 streams, even 7, this perfect little waters that come forth, and cause men to march over dry shod. You'll be able to step over it even. And there shall be a highway for the 16. There shall be a highway for the remnant of his people that shall remain from Assyria, like as there was for Israel in the day that he came up out of the land of Egypt. And this highway for the remnant of God's people, we're going to find out is a highway God has prepared now. It's a lonely highway too. That comes from Assyria, that comes from this place, this Asher, and we're going to find, see, what's he going to do in the end? They're running. This highway is prepared for the great fleeing that's going to come, see, and when God comes and smites the city, there is going to be a great running away. This has been prophesied, this great example of the end time. Remember, and one shall yell, stay, stay. And none looks back. See, none's going to look back because God showed himself mighty in the earth, even through this sign he said he was going to make. And he's going to punish now through it. This has been prophesied. The king was given in judgment. And we should remember that now. But they didn't. They didn't think of these things, and they didn't consider it. We're going to move on to chapter 12.